Okay, let's go, let's go. It is time to work our brains. Like Lee Queenie said, no pain, no gain, remain the same. What's your problem?
Because I get freaking every time I said it right.
Oh, you always talking about something breaking, something crying. You need to get stronger than that. Suck it up, buttercup. Get it together. You, what are you trying to show me? Those who look for affirmation will always stay weak. Do what you're supposed to do and do it better because you want to be better. What in the guru? Mind your mindfulness. You need to be minding this math. Come on, you still don't know your daggone 5 groups. Let's go. No, you won't. No, y'all won't. You will not be giving me your germs. Step back and get over there.
Miss Williams says, please come to my office now.
Are you a philosopher?
No, no. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. Teachers, we know our students are carrying more stress, pressure, and emotions than ever before. What if there was a way to help them thrive? Not just academically, but socially and emotionally too. Today, I'm talking with author Miss Askera Bailey, who, in addition to writing 2 novels, is an SEL high school teacher who has created a powerful new program just for high school students. Stick around because you'll hear strategies you can take back to your classroom tomorrow. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to get more powerful discussions that affect our community. All right, and today we're welcoming Miss Askera Bailey. Do you want to be called Askera or Halima?
Thank you. Yes, Halima. I always go by Halima.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for joining us, Halima. And I'm kind of excited
Thank
about
you too.
having you here because I have to admit I think I'm one of those skeptics about
Yeah.
teaching SEL. And so I'm excited to educate myself as well as others to the importance of having an SEL program in our schools, specifically in the times
Absolutely.
that we are living in now. So, if you can, just tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to become an SEL teacher. And for those who
Sure.
may need it, also let us know, what does SEL mean? What does it stand for?
All right. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to be here. And yeah, I know a lot of people are, SEL is still kind of introducing itself to the education world, and many people um, are still getting used or comfortable with the idea of incorporating it in everyday education. So, yes, I am Halima. I've been teaching for 11 years. SubhanAllah. It's been a while. And I've recently gotten into SEL in the last 2 years in a formal structure. However, what I've discovered is that really my philosophy of teaching was always really based in an SEL kind of ideology.
Hmm.
So, SEL stands for social emotional learning. And what inspired me to really take this direction is I felt that there was a need for, reconnecting with the students.
Hmm.
I realized within my 11 years of teaching that academics have been more of a focus on do what you're told rather than really getting students to foster their own intelligence, thinking, as well as their individual identity. What I realized with learning social emotional learning is that it isn't just about focusing on feeling, nor is it
Hmm.
about focusing only on academics, but about bringing together these two ideologies to create a more well-rounded and more individualized student.
That's interesting because the first thing that I thought of when I was preparing for this interview, I was wondering, is this, and forgive me, but is this just another ideological agenda for our classrooms to get our, I know that I'm probably going to sound a little old school, but things have gotten so very much of in emotions. Let's get into our emotions.
Okay,
How are you
yes.
feeling? You know, and everything
Yeah.
it seems to me that we're getting away from the academia of everything and moving into this area of how do you feel? Do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Do you not want to do that? You know, so do you think that that SEL is just another way of bringing in another ideological agenda for our classrooms to dummy down the academics?
So, um, that is valid. You know, everything I believe in this century is always like, do whatever you want to do. Everything is up to choice.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, that's true. It has become like this, but I don't think that SEL falls into this category. And I believe that your question has a kind of a twofold or threefolded answer. So first, if we look at the history of SEL and SEL incorporation, it actually first appeared in the early 1970s
Hmm.
from psychology doctors who actually founded this idea of social emotional learning. They realized that, in fact, this background was necessary for urban students. What happened before the 1970s, schools purposefully left out a certain amount of connection in order to create this environment where urban students, minorities, and immigrants were not going to be able to fully understand their lessons
Mm.
by using a different kind of vernacular, by using the unfamiliar. They, in fact, created an environment that isolated African American, Latin American, and other immigrant students. And
Mm.
so a psychology doctor in the early 1970s actually discovered that students learned better when they felt that there was a more inclusive environment. So
Oh.
that brings us to our present day. Is SEL a way to get students to just focus more on personal choice and and feeling and ignore their responsibility to society through academics?
Right.
I don't really think so because SEL, in fact, promotes the exact opposite. It is about understanding exactly who you are so that you can better understand your responsibilities when it comes to academics. And it's also not a separate entity from academics itself. Part of the problem with thinking about failing and choice and I can do whatever I want to do kind of ideology is, you know, taken away from the importance or significance of responsibility,
Mm.
leadership, academics, learning, you know, actually picking up a book and read.
Mhm.
But if a program truly um, fosters a sense of curiosity and social emotional development within students, they will in fact understand the importance of making the right decisions,
Yeah.
making sure that they're taking responsibility, accountability, and not just focusing on only feelings.
So so it actually leads to leadership skills and
Absolutely.
and I would say it sounds like it leads to leadership skills as well as emotional intelligence and learning how to
Yes.
um, deal and accept.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, that sounds great. So can
Yes.
you
One of the,
go ahead? I'm sorry.
sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, one of the things about CASEL's direction, and CASEL is, you know, this kind of Center for Social Emotional Learning. What they believe is that, in fact, through learning social emotional balance, students, in fact, get the tools or become equipped with the tools necessary to, in fact, go into the workplace, become academics, become scholars, you know. So, like I said, it's actually part of it when they are able to have that balance and to actually know how to have emotional intelligence skills, how to have active listening skills, communication skills, that in fact paves their way into being able to be responsible individuals, whether in the workplace, in school, in universities, etc.
Mashallah. So can you now walk us through the main components of the SEL program that you have put together?
Sure. So the main components includes five major components, which is, of course, social emotional learning, mentorship, school student development, relationship development, community environment, and Islamic values. So this program begins with building the skills through workshops and activities. What I believe is important is that students actually understand the skills that they are picking up on before they just dive into implementation. Otherwise, implementation will fall apart.
Right.
So first, we spend at least the first half of the year focusing on building those skills. And then after that, we start fostering this student curiosity and engagement through implementation of the skills that they've learned in school events, community activities, opportunities, etc.
Okay. So with your program, how does it address specifically the challenges that high school students are facing today, especially when it concerns stress, anxiety, the social media influence,
Right.
and just trying to balance the realities versus
Yeah.
what they're versus I would say the influences, the social media influences that they have. So how does your
Yes.
program um, address those type of needs?
All right. So students need the ability to communicate. One thing that I have learned from all of these years of teaching is that students within the classroom haven't had a space where they could really think. And I
Hmm.
know that sounds funny because all you do is think in school, right? But
You hope
it is
so.
a yeah, I mean, for the most part, you know, but through an SEL program, students have a structured and guided thinking so that they, in fact, push forward their own individual thoughts. So my program doesn't just give them this space to learn or just to have fun, but a space to really structure their thoughts around emotional intelligence, individuality, resilience, decision making.
Hmm.
Now, why do they need that? They need that because that is what is going to help them level out their stress. That's what's going to help them know how to cope or get the coping skills because life isn't about not having stress. They're going to have stress. They may even feel down at times, but it's about how are they going to deal with it when it comes about. Like you said, social media is a big part of all of these students' lives now. They need to be able to distinguish between real and filtered realities and also understand their own self-awareness in
Hmm.
order to understand what is part of them so they don't put any of that kind of pressure on themselves. They know who they are. They don't have to change because social media has a new trend.
Right.
And that is what this kind of program and this space for social emotional learning does for them. It provides them that opportunity and also promotes positivity at the same time.
Okay, great. When we're speaking about the different SEL programs that's out there, what would you say gives your program the edge? If I wanted to go to my administrator and say, look, Halima has this program, an SEL program, and I think that it needs to be in our schools. Why? That's the first thing. Why should it be in the school? What's that special feature that you're giving to our students that we may not be able to get from a lot of the SEL programs that's out here?
Okay. So I'm a very holistic teacher, or
Okay.
educator, and this program takes on a holistic approach. So that's the first thing that I believe makes this program unique. It merges emotional literacy, mentorship with Islamic values and supports the child as an individual and fosters their kind of belonging, inspires their sense of purpose. In this program, students not only becomes students and learners, but they also become leaders and mentors.
Mm,
So as they are moving in the program, my job is not to be in the center of the program. My job is to guide them into being the center of the program, where they are the ones who take on their own learning. They become the mentors for each other, that they become colleagues. So instead of, like a traditional program that doesn't focus on individuality or achievement, personal achievement, this kind of program, it really does focus on the students making or being the center of the decision.
very good. So it's a holistic, student-centered approach.
Absolutely, based upon, Islamic values and social emotional learning.
Now let's stay with the Islamic values part because we everyone can see we're Muslim.
Yes.
It's hard. We're not hiding it, but we're also educators, and
Yeah.
our our goal is to, I would say, our goal as educators is to, like you said, create that environment of thought and being able to distinguish truth without
Yes.
forcing, um, without, I would say, without forcing it, but creating the environment that inspires the truth to naturally come through,
Yes, exactly.
right? And with that, I can see that a program, an SEL program, and even with what you're speaking with your SEL program, um, that because it is based upon that leadership quality and understanding yourself, understanding. I'm trying to see how to connect this, understanding your value in the world. That's what the
Right.
program does. How
Mhm.
about for those educators that are not Muslim, but would still want that type of program inside of their school that may not be an Islamic school?
Okay.
Would your program still be suitable for that? And how can, that's part one. And part two is, does SEL ignore the cultural norms of specific students? Like
Mhm.
is it, how can teachers, let's say they want to introduce the SEL program, however our values may be different than the students' values. Our
Right.
cultural norms may be different from the students' cultural norms. Does SEL ignore that and say, hey, you don't have to focus on that part, focus on this part? Or
Right.
isn't what we consider emotional norms based upon our culture? So
Mhm.
how can we do a program like this, but at the same time ensure that we are, you know, um, not ignoring, I guess we can say, cultural norms.
Absolutely. So, what I'm going to do, I'll answer your second question first and then get to your first one. I think that is going to be a perfect
Okay.
segue. So, SEL and youth development has this ideology that students should be able to celebrate their own individual values. and cultures or beliefs.
Mm.
And so, in order to make sure that SEL doesn't isn't biased, so to speak, what an SEL educator and what a program should do is to allow students to highlight their own beliefs without putting it on them. So you provide the skills. The students connect those skills to their values. Okay, we don't provide the values.
So
You
it's a
understand?
so it's skill based, not content based. If we can put it in a general term, skill
Exactly.
based. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, that perfectly kind of sums it up. So, we won't put on the students, this is what you should do, this is what you should follow. But through the general understanding of how they can become their best version of themselves, and they self-reflect on who they want to be and who they're striving to be, they end up going into the direction as based upon their environment, their family, their personal individual beliefs, whatever that may be, that kind of motivates them to push forward. And
Mm,
students always have um, kind of a pathway or a belief system,
right.
whether it comes from early on, something that they're taught by their families, or it just comes from their environment. They have a belief, even if it's not in the forefront. SEL brings that into the forefront
Mm,
and builds on what they already believe in.
mhm,
So, as far as introducing a program like this, which is based on Islamic values in a non-Muslim or non-Islamic environment, I believe that it is, once again, as I said, it goes across environments, across cross-cultural, communities.
mhm.
First of all, the kind of skills that we try to build on are general. Of course, they may be Islamic values, but sincerity, trust, justice, compassion are
Wow.
not reserved just for Muslims,
Right. Yes.
These are beliefs that Muslims build on, but they are societal beliefs as well. What makes a person a responsible citizen? And that's what we try to do. We try to build our students into being, responsible global citizens. And so a
Mhm.
person who is not Muslim would still be able to use those same skills and build on those same values. You see,
Mashallah.
so it's not about focusing or putting it only in the midst of Islam. They could take my blueprint, my templates, and put their own twist on it. Of course, I include, Quran and hadiths and things like that in the midst as reminders for our students, but a non-Muslim would be able to use the exact same thing, even without including the ayah and hadith.
This is great. This is great. Now, I'm going to switch the focus now to, I think we have an understanding or about the foundation of what
Yeah,
SEL is. Now, let's switch it towards that implementation. How can
yes.
teachers integrate your SEL program into their daily routines without feeling like this is just one more thing our administrator is having us to do? So what
Yeah.
can how can they do this without feeling overwhelmed?
So this is the tough part, right? Because two things happen here. Either one, teachers are resistant because they do feel like it is an added part, just something else they have to lesson plan about. They don't want to do that. Or two, the program is not conducive and administration sees it as something to add on rather something to be included.
Mhm.
So the best way is first, obviously, the education on what exactly is SEL and how to include it will be necessary on both parts before you even implement it in the first place. That way you'll see that it doesn't have to be separate.
Right, right.
Now, the second thing is to teachers will be able to implement it and even just the vocabulary that they use,
Mm,
making sure that you change how you phrase correction or introduction or even discipline, making sure that you use a vocabulary that is conducive to a student's social emotional learning, not only to make them feel happy, but to also role model or model how they're supposed to communicate as well and how they take on their own social emotional intelligence. So that's the first part. The second part is including it once again in lessons, even if it is just a quick 1 minute introduction of show of hands, how do you feel today? Or what kind of emoji would you use, to describe your day so far? Or how well are you understanding the lesson? It
Mm,
could be even, included in an exit ticket, just very quick, you know, um, using social emotional intelligence to describe how well you understood what you've learned so far, or how you would even use what you've learned so far in your own real life examples.
mm,
Another way is to include it within the lesson itself. So instead of planning out your lesson to isolate social emotional learning or global citizenship, actually try to use real life examples,
mm,
something as simple as that
mm,
within your lesson. Try to use something where, in fact, you're not even telling the students, but maybe allowing the students to come up with their own examples.
okay.
All of that is ways to foster emotional intelligence thinking, decision making, individuality, self awareness. All of that works together. Another way, let's say that, you've already planned out your lesson and you forgot. You didn't include anything for social emotional learning. Allow the students the opportunity that while you're teaching them,
Mm,
instead of just, cramming the information in their heads, let them, pause for a moment, let them talk, let them discuss and create a model from what they're learning. Maybe they can read out the lesson. They can also, raise their hands, have a discussion on what this lesson means. What meaning are they taking from this? That really also helps, to incorporate SEL without making it an isolated agenda.
which I love because what I'm hearing is I don't have to do extra lesson planning. That's what I hear.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't,
It takes a
and I
lot of
don't have.
pressure off from you.
Yes,
Mhm.
okay, because um, that is what becomes overwhelming when I have more material I have to learn. I have more lesson planning I have to
Yeah.
implement. I have a whole nother PD that I have to go
Yeah.
through, but if I can take
Right.
those, I think you gave us 5 ways to do that. And I love that each one of those were something that I can already bring in. I can already bring in
Absolutely.
positive feedback. I can bring in
Yeah.
how are you doing? How's thumbs up, thumbs down? I can bring in all
Exactly.
of these type of techniques and strategies in the beginning so that I don't have to feel overwhelmed, and then take it gradually. If I want to do more, I can do more, such as doing
Right.
like you said, leadership programs. I can have a leader inside, I can have a classroom leader. So,
Right. You don't
right,
need to have a separate program even for that
right,
alone. You can
right.
just have that within your classroom.
That's very doable and manageable. You've made me at
Yeah.
ease right now. So right now I'm thinking, okay, this is something I feel like, and it's honest. I think it's something that I feel like I can do. Now, what would you
And many
say?
people don't even realize that they're already doing it. Many educators may even already be incorporating that and don't even know.
Right. And most of us are, because we have already taken on that role anyway of being the student advocate, or being
Exactly.
the mom away from home. We've already taken on these
Exactly.
these roles anyway.
Yeah,
So a lot of
they
it,
had those trending videos with the handshake pattern
yes,
thing and,
yes.
people teachers jump roping and everything. That's all part of social emotional learning. Now it's about how can we structure that into it being a skill? But that's
Right.
exactly what it is.
And that's the I would say that is being that old school teacher. And I always bring up this term edutainment. I don't like
Yeah.
edutainment. However,
Okay.
the part that I think is resounding for me and prominent, when you're speaking, what becomes prominent for me is giving them the skill set, giving them the emotional skill set
Right.
to become their better selves. And I'm all
Yes.
for teaching the skills that's needed. Now, if that means that
Mhm.
you have to learn a handshake, learn the handshake. That might not be
Yeah.
for me, but for others, whatever that can entail. I really like that. I want to ask you, how do we know if it's working? How do we know?
Yes. Good
Because
question.
it's not like it's math or English where we can give them a test and we can put a number to it. And nor do we
Right.
want we don't want the district or whoever it is to begin to put numbers to it. So how can
Absolutely.
us as educators say, you know what, this program is working, or I need to restructure what I'm doing?
Right. So, um, as much as this word kills me because I know it's tough, but data.
Yay,
Data
data!
is, I know, it's so tough and it's like sometimes an educator's nightmare. But data becomes very important to know if it's working. And within SEL, there's two different kinds. So you have data within from the student themselves, how they communicate. And
Okay.
then you have data, which is written data from perhaps surveys, parent feedback, reflection from their work, maybe giving them journals. You don't assess them by giving them a test, but through their journals, through their writing, through their academic performance, that
Mm,
is how you actually see a reflection.
okay.
I want to give you a good example. So, I'm always a very out of the box teacher. So, one of the things that I have done in both my classes and my peer circles, that's what we call our meetings within the program,
Okay.
is I have given students activities, so to speak, that had instructions on it. But throughout the end of it, somehow there would be a loophole within the instruction or something like that in order to pull the students to think for themselves. Don't
Mm,
always follow what I say. Start to think on your own, follow instructions, but look at it more carefully. So
okay.
what ends up happening at the end is that I have a bunch of rebel students now who question everything. Now they have this idea, well, what do you exactly mean by that? What is the big picture about this? Whether it's in my social studies class or whether it's even in the peer circle, they look at every piece of activity, instruction, news source, whatever it may be, in a much more broad format. And they don't
Mm,
even realize that they've done that. At the beginning, they had no idea how to think outside of the box or how to, do anything besides listen to instruction, do what you're
mm,
told.
mm.
Towards the end of this, or well, actually, we're just midway, they're already starting to question, and not in a way that everything is wrong,
Okay.
but they're tailoring their thought pattern to look at the things that they're seeing and think much deeper about what they're seeing. That is a form of
Oh,
data of
okay.
social emotional intelligence.
Okay. Wow, mashallah. So I love that example. So and it's funny because I was just getting ready to ask you for an example, for you to give us an example for your high school students
Oh,
of success. But that right there is excellent that you have them thinking.
yeah.
Um, you
Yes.
call it thinking outside of the box. I call it thinking because that's what
Wow.
that's what
Yes.
that's what is lacking. You know,
Yeah.
you want them to not be sheep. You want them to be
Right.
able
Just
to,
cause.
yes, exactly. So the fact that they're thinking and the fact that they're asking questions and not to be negative, I do want to point that out. It's not like we're trying to teach them to question their parents or just
Right.
question authority just to question authority. No, but it's to think about think about it more, think about it deeper,
Yes.
think about
Right.
cause and effects and things like that.
Yes.
Yes, mashallah. Now, I was thinking this because one of the questions that was brought to me was, how do we not blur the lines with teachers being teaching that social emotional learning,
Right.
um, and then becoming the mental health therapist?
Right.
because there is a line, and even with even ethically with us as this profession, lines can be crossed because we do get so much of the trust of the students, where we become their confidant, or they come to us before they come to their parents or their counselors
Yeah,
or anything like that. And we have to realize the ramifications of our position
mm,
for our students, so
that's true.
um when do we see that this is crossing into therapy, a therapist, which we are not.
Right.
As a way to disclaim, we are not therapists, we are educators, so we're trying to help them learn how to balance their emotions, but how do we ensure that we're not blurring the line between being an educator that's teaching SEL and being a mental health
Yeah.
therapist?
Yeah. So that's the tricky part, right? Because if you do a program like this well, or even if you're just an educator that starts to pick up on incorporating SEL, then you are going to gain the students' trust. They are
Mm,
going to come to you and communicate because you have set that environment.
mm,
So now what do you do? Because like you said, you can't cross those lines.
right,
That could be an issue. So what's important here is that you be an active listener, but you don't have to be an active participant.
hmm,
What I mean by that. So that means that you should always be there as an active listener, letting that student know that they are heard and that they can come to you. But you don't participate in what they're saying by offering you offer constructive feedback, but you don't put yourself in that position to be a therapist. You're not going to give them mental health advice.
right,
You're not going to give them, medications and, well, what you can do is this, or, let them sit down and talk to you. That's not what you do.
yeah,
What you do is you remind them of what they've learned or, those skills once again, and how they can use that in that situation. And then if
mm,
it needs to go beyond that, you provide them the resources to where they need to go to talk about this issue in a much deeper depth. So
wow,
if they need a mental health therapist, then you're going to suggest them one. But if it's just surface level, then
right,
of course, you remind them of how they can manage the situation
right.
using social emotional
Remind them. So again,
balance.
keep it to the skill. Keep it to the skill. Reminding
Right.
them, look, when we have this type of issue, how do we deal with this? How are we supposed to deal with
Right.
this? What are our steps towards success, I guess we can say.
And let
Um,
the student tell you. You
uh,
don't tell them,
yes, yes, mashallah. If you had to, well, you do have to, because I'm about to ask you the question, so I'm hoping that you do.
Uh-oh, okay.
Give educators in one message, 1 minute, give educators the reason of why SEL matters.
Okay. Um, I know that most of this stuff is like, a lot of times when people ask this question, it's so scripted, the response. But
Mm,
I'm just going to be completely, I think, personal, I think, with it.
mm,
Students are growing up in a world where they don't have a choice. The world that we live in right now is extremely chaotic,
mm,
and it is filled with a lot of pressure that our young students are being exposed to at a very early age. And if we don't prepare them now, instead of contributing to having a global citizen that manages this and brings about global peace, we have someone who contributes to the chaos.
mm,
We have an opportunity as educators right now, and I think sometimes educators don't understand how heavy this responsibility is, this amana. We have an opportunity to set a pathway right in front of our eyes and right in front of theirs They need to have emotional intelligence. They need to know decision making. They need to have coping mechanisms and to build positive relationships. And if we don't work on that right now, while we have these students in our care, we set ourselves in this society to release a student that is not well equipped or
Mm,
prepared to deal with the increasing conflicts and disasters that they are already witnessing.
mm,
We can see how heavy it is for us to witness the things that we're witnessing in this day and age. What more for a student who's already not prepared and who doesn't have the skills, have no idea how they're going to process what they're witnessing. So it is for us, I believe, to take on social emotional learning and to really use it as a way, inshallah, to contribute to their well-being, if we really care about them, to their well-being, and then inshallah, in a larger scale, to our society's well-being, and growing, inshallah, responsible leaders.
wonderful, wonderful. You have definitely made this educator think about how to intentionally incorporate, because this is what this is, the intentional workshop, um,
Yes.
and see how I can intentionally incorporate SEL in my classroom. So I thank you for this. We are about to close the
So
interview,
much.
but before we do, we're going to just do a quick fire
Okay.
round where I will ask you questions. You have to answer it within 45 seconds or less okay? So
Okay, let's
let's
hear the
see if we
story.
can do this. You ready?
All right, let me put my, social emotional helmet on.
All right, here we
I
are.
got it.
Okay. Number one, give me one SEL strategy teachers can use tomorrow to connect with their students.
Journal writing. I'm sorry,
Oh,
that's the first thing that came to my mind. But yeah, writing in a journal,
okay.
connecting it to the lesson.
Okay. Number two, one word to describe the impact of SEL on high school students. One word.
That's tough. Okay, empathy.
Oh, okay.
Empathy.
All
Students
right.
develop empathy.
All right. I like that. You're doing great.
The helmet's working.
Okay, next. If teachers practice SEL daily, what would classrooms look like in 5 years?
Oh man, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of the word here. What would classrooms look like in 5 years? It would look like engagement.
Mm,
Thoughts. Since we've used this word throughout the interview, I would say it would look like an environment of engagement and true, genuine thinking.
very good. And we are done. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
You survived the quick fire round.
Woo! All right.
You know,
Pressure was on.
we it's funny because while I was speaking to you, I was feeling like I was giving you some social emotional learning by saying you're doing a great job. You can do it.
Exactly. And
So
you
I
saw how I
guess
responded to that?
yeah, I saw it. I saw it right there,
Yeah,
which also led me to understand that teachers also need that social emotional learning from administrators.
they really do.
Eh, eh.
Um, and not just from, the hard thing is not just from administrators, but they need to know for themselves as well.
Mm,
SEL for teachers, distress time, know how to manage your time. Administration, they have their own pressures. They're not always going to give you the break that you may need.
mm,
You're going to have to fit that in to
mm.
understanding how to use your time and how to balance your time out. Give yourself those affirmations that you need. Maybe
Exactly.
even use a diary to write out your teaching experiences. You
Exactly.
definitely need to use social media even with yourself.
Exactly. One of the things that I do speak about in my book, the Intentional Teacher Workshop, is that teacher
Yeah.
burnout, and that
Yes.
you have to sharpen your saw. That's that to
Mm.
me. That's that social
Yes.
emotional learning,
I see.
knowing when I have to say, you know what, I can't do this. And you know
Mhm.
what? I am tired. Let me take my break. Let
Um,
me take time to understand what I'm going through as the stress of being an educator, as the stress of all the other
yes.
jobs that may come with me just being a woman or things like that. So it's important
Right.
now talking to you, and this is why I love these type of environments where educators can get together and we can discuss and we can trade, because it's
Right.
in order for
Benefit
us
from one
to,
another.
yes, in order for us to be able to even begin to incorporate SEL with our students, we have to learn SEL for ourselves and what that
Big
means,
time.
so this is something that, as an intentional teacher, and for those looking to be intentional teachers and to teach with purpose, this is something that we definitely need to dig deeper into, this subject of SEL,
I
and
love that.
not just for the students, but for educators, the education field as
Mhm.
a whole. We need to look at that, because
Yes.
we're in troubling times. We're in troubling times.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And education is also changing so quickly
yes,
itself.
yes. So I'm going to give you the
We're going to
final
need to have
word.
those skills.
I'm going to give you the final word. Anything that you would like to say? How can we get in touch with you? Where can we find your works? Or, where can we connect with you?
Okay, yeah, so, I am in a constant process of improvement, and I love open forums like this and discussion. So, if anyone wants to, collaborate further with me, they can contact me at authorhalimasultan@gmail.com. Hopefully, we can leave that link below, inshallah. I also have my social media channels, which is Revival of the Sultana, as well as Halima Sultan online. You can find my books as well, which many people separate SEL from daily life. It's not just a matter of education, but it is how we implement these skills throughout our lives anyway. So you can actually find books concerning this on Amazon. Both of my books is available there as well. If anyone would be interested in, workshops, me conducting workshops for your school or helping you, assisting you with setting up a program as well, you can once again just contact me through my Gmail and I'll be ready to respond,
Okay.
inshallah.
And you have a LinkedIn. Should we put the LinkedIn as well down below?
Yes, we can plug in the LinkedIn as well, which is just my name, Mascara Bailey.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to
Thank you so much.
Leaders of a New School. This is our intentional teacher workshop. Um, I can say, yeah, that's what it is, our intentional teachers workshop, where we reflect on purposeful teaching. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. I'd like to thank Halima for being my special guest and teaching us more about the deep dive of SEL and your SEL program. I wish you all the best with your program, and
Thank you so much.
anyone that, please check the links down below. We'll have the link for Halima, as well as for her books and how to get in touch with her if you would like to have her come in and give you a workshop on SEL. And the link below for the Intentional Teacher Workshop book is also the link below. Remember to hit like and subscribe, and I hope I will see you guys again. Until then, be purposeful, be intentional, be great.
I love it.
All right.